Hello, my name is Claire Dickson. I'm here at the Castlemaine Town Folk Festival today, and I've had the opportunity to interview some absolutely incredible musicians who have been playing here today. The headliner of the show, however, I am super duper excited to see, and even more so excited to have a little chat with. Sharon Van Etten and the Attachment Theory is joining me here. Sharon, hello.
Hi, how are you doing?
Oh, I've had an absolutely beautiful day. Have you?
Yes, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful here. I've never been to Castlemaine.
It's such a beautiful little pocket of the world, still so close to like Melbourne and everything as well, but you get that kind of fresh country air at the same time. It's pretty special. Well, obviously, firstly, thank you so much for coming out to Castlemaine. We were having a tiny chat before where you mentioned most of the time you're finding yourself in big cities and it's the first time to kind of stretch your legs a little bit and come out to a little rural town. How important do you think it is to sort of visit these rural areas and when you're on tour?
I think in general it's good to see all parts of a country to see it's not just cities, it's all the in between. And I've lived in cities and I've also lived outside of cities, and I grew up in a very country area, and I feel like it's all very influential. And it's so important to be able to take a breather when you're traveling too, just to kind of give yourself some space and remind yourself of nature and slow your roll a little bit.
Absolutely. I mean, you also mentioned before this is your second show, so you're fresh here. Do you have much time on your trip to sort of explore while you're here?
We'll actually have a little bit of time in the Melbourne area.
Oh, lovely.
And, every day off is a travel day, so we usually get to our next destination with an evening and a morning before the show.
Awesome.
So I feel very grateful for that kind of pacing on a tour, which doesn't really happen when you're on a bus or in a van.
For sure. Yeah, I can imagine that's quite different when you're touring here in Australia compared to touring in, there are lots of other countries. It might be you're on a tour bus and you go to sleep and you wake up somewhere new. Or in Australia, I feel like it's quite different and logistically can be harder. Have you sort of found, this isn't your first time in Australia, how have you found touring here compared to maybe touring in the US or somewhere else?
I feel like it's much more humane. I think, like I said earlier, you have a bit more time to explore, and I feel like we gives you a little bit more time to adapt too, because the time change is very real.
Opposite schedule.
I'm trying to explain to my son that I'm in the future and that things look good. But yeah, I think, having a day off in between every show, I also feel like we're all more rested and have more energy for our shows. And sometimes you can get a bit tired from the bus tours, which ultimately feel like camping, while this feels more like a vacation and we get to play.
Great combination. Yeah, amazing combination. So, as I mentioned before, you're currently touring with your band, The Attachment Theory. Can you tell us a little bit about how this group came together and maybe like the musical chemistry or, the conversation you're exploring with everyone on this album and in this band?
Yeah. So, two of my bandmates I've been playing with since about 2018, 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And then COVID hit, and I was writing a lot at home, and so I threw out my demo tracks to my bandmates to see if they would help me record stuff from afar. And so we didn't get to tour that record until 2022. We hadn't all been in the same room together. So I thought it would be a great way to reconnect by renting a house that had a detached studio so that we could all come into one place and learn how to play these songs in a live environment, but in a very communal, intimate setting that's not a sterile kind of practice space.
Yeah.
And so we were all just playing the songs and figuring out how to flesh out the songs instrumentation-wise. And we got into a really inspiring place where I loved the sonic palette that we were creating, just based on the record we had made from afar. And I was feeling really good, and we had gone through all the songs, so I asked the band if they would just want to jam.
Cool. Which was new for you, right?
I've never asked anybody that in my life. And I was always nervous to ask people or be a part of something like that, because I don't have that kind of musicality. But I play with people that are just very open and accepting and nurturing, where I didn't really bat an eye, and neither did they when I asked. And in one sitting in about an hour, we wrote 2 songs together without even trying or forcing it to be anything. So I walked away from that rehearsal feeling really inspired and we were about to go on tour, but I knew the next time we had a break that I would want to go back to that same location, but with the intent to write for a week and see what would happen. And we ended up writing 15 songs in a week.
It's just like that. That's so exciting. How important do you think it is as well? Obviously, the people that you're surrounding yourself with. I mean, you could be jamming with anyone, but do you think the people you were jamming with really had an impact on your sound? Like, what do they maybe bring that perhaps if you were writing this album on your own, you might not have thought to include?
Well, I tend to write solo. Like, before this record, I'm a loner. And I'm alone with my thoughts. And I usually write when I'm in a darker place. And I don't have the words for the feelings that I know I need to get out. And I feel like we'd all been through so much together, like getting through COVID. And they had shown me how dedicated they were by wanting to make this record and wanting to tour with me, even after this huge break. That I wanted to instill more confidence in them or show them how devoted I was to them.
It's like reciprocal.
And I just feel like they're such amazing musicians that when I told them music that I was inspired by and when I sent them those initial demos from the previous record, that's kind of their forte, that whole sonic palette. And I just didn't feel judged, and I felt in a really safe space. And because it can be very overwhelming and vulnerable. I was very vulnerable, and I sing a stream of consciously when I first write melodies. So, you're hearing
people.
it's a lot of jibber jabber. But there was no judgment. We all had our own process, and it was a lot of conducting. But it was, you just have to be in the room with people that you feel supported and accepted by, so you're not judging yourself while being in that kind of vulnerable space.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think that the way you feel about your older works have changed now that this new project with the Attachment Theory is all about collaboration? Like, are there any songs that maybe you've revisited or played live that you think has maybe changed sonically now that you're kind of potentially more open to collaboration on ideas?
There's our song Every Time the Sun Comes Up,
my favorite
song we revisited with this palette, more like Joy Division inspired. But I'm also happy to let those past chapters live in a certain era for me. That if I do acoustic sets, I might reintroduce my older work. But I feel like for the most part, every album is a different chapter. And sometimes we integrate older material, but for the most part, it's the last 3 records. That is where I am sonically right now, but I'm sure I'll get to a place where I'll go back to my first record, which I'm still very proud of. But, my first record came out 16 years ago, so I'm still that person, but it's also a long time ago.
Yeah. How do you feel when you look back at that old music? Does it feel like, diary entries? Your music is so personal.
Very much so. I mean, they are chapters of my life, but I, sometimes I can look at the lyrics with distance and see how it has helped people beyond myself.
For sure.
And feel like they have value in this way for hopefully a younger generation that, now is already better equipped than I was at that age to, be able to communicate their emotions in a healthy way.
I think it's such a special power of music to be able to bring together people in community and, people to connect with no matter when it was made. There's always going to be someone who can feel what you're feeling, and your music is really powerful for that. It's very deep. And like you mentioned before, vulnerable as well. And I can't imagine what that must feel like bringing that to an audience. And how does it feel to be so vulnerable and on stage in front of so many people? I'm impressed.
It feels very vulnerable. I definitely I tear up a lot during the set. And even in being an adult and feeling, feeling like I know myself more than I did years ago. But it's still very emotional to look out to a group of people that are connecting with you in this deep way.
Yeah.
And I know that my songs have helped other people, and that helps me feel like, because sometimes I go through these moments where I feel super selfish for being on stage and asking for people's attention sometimes, and when I can connect with someone in a way where I feel like they're actually there with me and not I'm demanding anything of that makes me
You're
feel
absolutely
better.
not. People are there to see you because they've connected with what what you've put out and what you've brought to them. And I think, that's so incredibly special. I also wanted to briefly talk about the project name, the attachment theory. Is that kind of like a nod to like the psychological framework about like how we bond with others? Like everyone's kind of into their attachment styles at the moment. Is that a nod to that, I guess?
Absolutely. I mean, I do have an interest in psychology. It's still something I'm studying, and hopefully one day I'll have some kind of certification in. But the bigger jug is that we all turn into each other's like chosen family when we're touring together. We do have these sibling-like dynamics that I think are really interesting, and I had a little pushback from a couple of band members at first with the name because I think they have a harder time. They said, as long as we don't have to talk about what our attachment styles are, I'm totally fine with doing the name. But for me, it's mostly a joke.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. When you meet audiences in different towns, when you're playing in different communities as well, or like regional Victoria where we are today, do you sense different types of like emotional feedback from crowds compared to playing in the city or in like a more intimate venue?
Yeah, I mean, you play places and you feel like the polite audiences, like in certain places, like where were we? Maybe in Germany, it was like very, very polite, like critical, but out of like them, that's their way of liking it is by giving you feedback. But then you go to Paris was a really energetic show, and also seated versus standing completely changed an audience.
Yeah,
sure. So yeah, it's kind of all over the place. But sometimes people are more introvert, and some people are more extrovert, but the standing seating thing can also just be a psychological.
Yeah, I can imagine. And for anyone discovering you at the festival today for the very first time, what would you want them to take away from your show?
Just a sense of community and a safe space to be themselves, and to also like be together in our grief, but also in our collective defiance and our joy, and just to be together and remind each other that there's hope somewhere.
Absolutely. Well, Sharon Van Etten, thank you so much for chatting with me today at the Castlemaine Town Folk Festival. I wish you all the best with your set, and I can't wait to see it myself.
Thank you so much for excited.
Yay! Thank you.
Thank you.